Coach Willie Martinez. A reminder, please keep your screen muted until you're called on. Please hit the raise your hand function and we'll call on you. And we ask that you please state your name and affiliation so all the coaches could get familiar with you. I will now turn it over to Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel.
Morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great. I want to start by just saying congratulations to Coach Barnes and the basketball team yesterday. Great come-from-behind victory, and wish them well as they get ready for tournament play this week here. Excited to be able to introduce our defensive staff, a group of men that really excited about. They've hit the ground running here this past week and a half with our players and already getting some things implemented and getting ourselves prepared for spring ball. Excited about a group of men, who they are, how they're going to impact our players in a positive way off the field. A group of high energy men that have a ton of experience. I think 4 out of the 5 have coordinator experience. 4 out of the 5 have SEC ties and have been inside of this league before. A group of elite recruiters that can help us recruit the biggest and the best here to Knoxville, Tennessee. Coach Banks, it was important to me on the defense side of the ball that I got somebody that had a clear vision and had some experience in what they were doing on the defensive side of the football. Believe that our philosophies pair together extremely well. Guy that's had a coordinator title here the last 14 years of his coaching career, I believe. Look at the last 5 years, what he's been a part of at Penn State. You just look at their ability to create 0 negative plays. I think they're top 5 or top 10 in pretty much every one of those categories here over the last 5 years. It's going to give us the ability to be multiple in what we do, be aggressive in nature, tremendous teacher. And I think will be a perfect fit for what we're doing here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Done a great job of developing guys at all 3 levels as a coordinator, talking about D-line linebackers in the secondary position. Will work with us primarily on the on the back end with our secondary there, but really excited about him. Our outside linebackers coach and special teams coordinator, Mike Eckler, a guy that I've known dating back to our time together at Oklahoma. You just look at his track record of where he's been, the success that they've had. Another guy that has coordinator experience on the defense coordinator position, but also has done it on the special teams side here, coming from North Texas. But has been inside of this league, handled special teams at Georgia when he was there with Coach Richt as well, and brings a tremendous amount of knowledge to the special teams side of it here inside of our program. Another guy that's got tremendous amount of energy, elite recruiter. Excited about having him and his family here. Linebackers coach, Brian Jean-Marie, just excited about who he is, having competed against him, and schematically what he did, the problems that he caused as a coordinator. Will coach our linebackers coming from Michigan, known as an elite recruiter everywhere that he's been. Great developer of guys at that second level and at the linebacker position. You look at the amount of guys that he's been able to recruit and then develop and have an opportunity to go play in the NFL. A perfect fit for us at that position. Rodney Gardner, our defensive line coach, guy that's coached 30-plus years inside the SEC. This is his second go-around here in Tennessee. I think he's got over 10 first-round draft picks at the D-line position. Known and is a great recruiter just because he's genuine. He is who he is. He does a great job of developing relationships. I've seen that in the short amount of time that he's been here. His ability to impact our players in a positive way, clear set of standards and expectations, and getting those guys to really buy in. Elite as far as being a teacher at D-line play. His ability to teach those guys an overall scheme, but really the fundamentals and technique at that position going to allow us to recruit the best. And the last guy that I want to talk about is Coach Willie Martinez. We've been together at our previous stop at Oklahoma, where I got to know him and his family in the last 3 years at UCF. Been inside of this league for over 15 years, both as a position coach and a long tenure as a coordinator as well. Brings a tremendous amount of wealth of knowledge, great recruiter, great human being, great family, and is going to provide a lot of insight on that side of it. Great teacher of the game, and you just look at who he is and what he's produced everywhere that he's been. NFL players at every stop, is known as one of the elite coaches in the secondary position. A group of guys that collectively have experience, have a wealth of knowledge, invest in their players, and are going to be great recruiters for us, and excited about having these guys here on the defensive side of the football. With that, I'll open it up to a few questions here.
I will take a few questions, and then so we stay on schedule here, we'll start with David Pascal.
Josh, how important was SEC experience, especially when you've got folks that have worked together? I know Rodney and Willie worked together under Mark Rick's staff for almost a decade together, and Eckler worked later under Rick. Just how you kept mentioning SEC experience. How important was that in your search?
Yeah, it was a big part of, for us as a staff, and as you assemble your 10 assistants and just collectively the balance that you want to have. Having some ties inside of this conference, knowing how it operates, knowing the landscape of it was important for me. I think you hit on something that was important as well. When you're bringing it together a group of guys, some familiarity with who they are individually and some connections there. Make the transition into that meeting room, the trust factor is really important, and I think we accomplished that as well. I think our players see how in sync those guys are and just how they operate and communicate, and as they put in their scheme as well. So you put all those factors together, I think that's a big part of it. And then, their SEC experience is important too, just in that they have some ties in the recruiting world here to our footprint as well.
We'll go to Brent, Hobbs, then Jimmy Hines.
Coach, when you look at the last month, 6 weeks, whatever it's been now, where are you in terms of getting your priorities done in terms of your checklist? How do you feel like this team is and this program is getting ready to go into spring practice? Where do you think you guys are with all of that?
Well, I feel like we're in a good spot heading into spring ball. We basically have 2 weeks left. With some of the recruiting landscape as far as pushing back, our ability to be on the road recruiting. We pushed back the start of spring ball 1 week, giving our guys, in particular the defense side of the football, another week to get their feet on the ground. These guys, we're announcing them today. They've been here for a week and really probably closer to 2 weeks that staff's been here with us. I think we're in a really good spot. You look at what they've done inside of our strength and conditioning program. I think we'll be prepared, having made some gains, but be prepared to go compete during the course of spring ball as well. So I like where we're at.
Josh, you've got a lot of defensive assistants that have not worked together, and I wonder the scheme that Banks brings in, will it be his scheme or will it be a combination with input from the defensive assistants?
It'll be a combination of some things that Coach Banks has done throughout his tenure, not just what he's done at Penn State. I think for us and where our roster is at, I think it's important that you have the ability to be flexible and to put your kids in a position of success. I think you have to be multiple in today's game. I think that's a part of creating zero and negative plays, getting offenses off schedule, and that's both in your front and then what you're seeing on the back end as well.
And do you try to suit your scheme to the personnel that you have?
For sure. I think you got to do that in all three phases. I think it's important that you find personnel that can fit into your overall strategy of what you want to do, but you got to take a look at what your personnel can do at a really high level and then put them in a position of being successful.
We'll go to Mike Wilson and Wes Ferrari.
Yeah, Josh, obviously when you were hired, Kevin Steele had just been hired on to staff here. Was there ever a consideration of keeping him as an assistant coach, and why was the decision ultimately made to not?
Yeah, Kevin's a great coach. Has been inside of this league for a long time and obviously has some ties to Tennessee as well. Wish him nothing but the best as he moves on in his coaching career in the future. Ultimately felt like this is the right collection of talent here to lead our players and help lead this football program.
Josh, how would you describe the level of buy-in that you're getting from the players that are still here? I know obviously that some guys have left, but the ones who are still here, what kind of buy-in are you getting from them?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's always about the players that you have. I don't care if that's, players that transition out of your program or who you don't get in recruiting. It's always about who is here. The level of buy-in has been phenomenal from our players. The accountability factor, those guys wanted it. They've bought into it. They're trusting the process of getting ourselves prepared to go compete during spring ball. We call this our first quarter of the off season here, strength and conditioning side of it, and starting to get some installs as far as what we're doing in all three phases of the game as well. But the guys have been great energy, great buy-in, excited about what we're doing. Great chemistry, I think, in the locker room as well. And those are all things that we're going to have to continue to develop here as we move through this off-season process.
Austin Price and Blake Topmeyer.
Coach, will you wait till after you kind of go through spring and see where you are from a roster standpoint to see where you all may target in the transfer portal after spring, or do you already kind of have a feel for what position you're going to need help at?
As our coaching staff has come in here, you watch cut-ups of each individual player, trying to give yourself a baseline of who they are, what their skill set is, potentially some subtle tweaks to what position they might be playing in or positions that you're going to put them in. But I think you find out a whole lot more. I think it's important inside of your program every day to not judge them for who they were. That's on the field or off the field. Judge them for who they are today. You got to give these players an opportunity to grow inside of your strength and conditioning program. Get some installs, get their feet on the grass, and have an opportunity to work and coach with them. And you'll find a whole lot more out as you go through spring ball.
Josh, you mentioned that Tim Banks' philosophy aligns with yours. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and describe in what ways Tim's philosophy, what he wants to do on defense, aligns with you?
Yeah, I think it's really important. In my introductory press conference, it was important to me. Like, we want to be aggressive in nature in who we are and how we play the football game. You got to let your players cut it loose and go play on game day, but that's also philosophically, how you're going to align and put your kids in a position of success. I think it's important that we are multiple on that side of the football. I think that's a part of causing issues for who you're facing on the offensive side of the football. You have to be a great teacher of that. If you're going to be multiple, you got to be a great teacher and be able to teach it in a way where there's a lot of things going on, but your kids have some rules that give them something to grab onto so that they can adjust quickly. And I think you just look at his track record, being aggressive, creating zero negative plays, being multiple. Those are all things that were important to me in hiring a defense coordinator.
All right, thank you, Coach. We want to stay on schedule here. We have Coach Banks coming up next.
Guys, appreciate it. Have a great day.
little Coke.
Now welcome Tennessee Defensive Coordinator Tim Banks. To ask a question to Coach Banks, please hit the raise your hand function. And a reminder, please state your name and affiliation so Coach can get familiar with you. We'll start with Ben McKee.
Coach, Ben McKee with Rocky Top Insider. Coach Heupel talked about you also going to be working with the defensive backs. I'm curious as to which aspects of the defensive backs you'll be working with, whether that's the safeties or the corners, and do you have a preference which ones you'll kind of be working with extensively?
Yeah. Hey, Ben, how you doing, brother? Appreciate the question. No, to be honest, I'll be working with both. I've coached the back end for a long time, obviously played the position. So obviously having Willie Martinez with us, gives me a lot of flexibility. If I'm training the corners, I feel very comfortable that he can train the safeties and, we'll be on the same page. But, anytime you're dealing with the back end, you want to make sure those guys understand and basically hear one message. We can't have anything lost in translation. So, as much as we both can coach the back end and not necessarily the safeties and the corners, but coaching the DBs, I think it just makes it that much smoother in terms of everything that we want to get done.
Go to Patrick Brown and David Pascal.
Hey Tim, Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports. I'm curious, what does the process look like for you in terms of getting to know your personnel before you start spring, and how much do you maybe reserve judgment for you, yourself, and your staff of what you want to see what these guys can do when they're on the field once you guys get to spring ball here in a couple weeks?
Hey, Patrick, that's definitely a great question. I think anytime you're trying to build something, you got to know what parts you have, right? So right now, we're evaluating, everything that these guys obviously did last season. We've been fortunate enough to be able to, get around these guys and see them work a little bit in the weight room and, some different movement activities on the field. So at that point, we're just evaluating, trying to figure out, what they do, how they move, and obviously we'll center the package around it. But right now, that's what we're doing. We're just gathering as much information as we can to make sure when it's time for the lights to come on that we can put these guys in the best possible position to be successful.
Hey Tim, David Pascal down here at the Chattanooga Times Free Press. I know when Josh was hiring the offensive side, there was a lot of familiarity with all the folks he was bringing up from UCF. A little bit different from you on the defensive side, but you do have Willie and Rodney that coached together at Georgia for a long time. I know Mike also coached at Georgia later, but have you already noticed that familiarity with Willie and Rodney having worked together, and does that help, having coaches that have been together like that?
Yeah, I think anytime you get guys that have a relationship, I think it helps, and obviously Willie and Coach Gardner having a chance to work together, for a number of years at a different place, I think obviously helps. But at the end of the day, we're building this thing together. I've known Willie, for 20 plus years, going back to my days as a player. And, I've known Rodney probably not quite as long, but obviously, going out and recruiting the South like I did and having a chance to bump into him and, and having some mutual friends, we've really hit the ground running. And, we're definitely building a bond that obviously will bode well for us when it's time to get going.
Go to Blake Topmeyer, then Jimmy Hines.
Hey Tim, Blake Topmeyer of the Knoxville News Sentinel. I was wondering, just what's your assessment of the level of talent that you step into here with this defense? And then also, I know you want to be multiple schematically, but do you see yourself more as a four-man front type of defense?
Yeah, again, I think we're still in the, getting to know each other phase, Blake, if that makes sense. So, we watch the tape, obviously there's some talented young men out there or else they wouldn't be at a place like Tennessee, but to what degree and what they can do moving forward, we got to continue to evaluate it. But I feel good. I feel like we'll have a chance to look these guys in the eye and have a strong plan that gets them in the best position to be successful. As far as the 4-3 or 3-4 and, all those type of things, once again, what do we have to work with? Again, as we continue to go through spring, we evaluate it, we'll make some decisions moving forward that obviously, puts the players in the best light, which in turn puts our defense in the best light. But right now, we're trying to continue to evaluate the talent level and see what these guys can obviously do and do well.
Coach said Jimmy Hines with the sports animal in Knoxville. How much of your scheme do you hope to install in the spring?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think just the base, we're always going to put the base in first, and start from the ground up working this thing. As we start to get, more exotic, based on, the appetite that the kids have to be able to digest, some of the more, strenuous, mentally things that may be within the package, we'll be able to look at that toward the end of spring would be my guess. But naturally, you want to start from A to B first and work your way to Z. So we want to get the base foundation in, see what these kids can do, see what kind of appetite they have, and then we'll move forward in terms of, putting them in some more what we would deem as exotics.
And also, how difficult is it now to play defense with all these complex offenses, the RPO, the variety of things that you see from week to week?
It's challenging, but I think that's the thing that makes you excited about having an opportunity to play defense. It's a lot of things that, you're going to see week in and week out, but the variations from week in and week out is there as well. So I think that's why you need to be multiple. You play on a team that maybe is more of a power team versus a team that's more spread versus a team that's more tempo. You have to put a system in place that gives these kids a chance to make adjustments, obviously during the game, but for us as coaches, week to week. So, that's the challenge, and it's not for everyone. But for us, we're excited about the opportunity, and we're looking forward to, competing and going against some of these high-powered offenses.
Gustavo, then Brent Hobbs.
Gustavo Tomazelli, WHK 90.3 The Rock here in UT campus. First of all, welcome. Tim, so what are your first impressions of the University of Tennessee, being here, the environment, the players? What are your first impressions being here in UT?
It's just a great place, Obviously, it's to me the thing that I'm really enjoying so far. It still has that small college town feel, but it has some city amenities. I think we'll be able to attract, some of the best student athletes, around the country because, whether we're recruiting in a small town or if you're going to get a city kid, I don't think it'll matter. I think because Knoxville has a little bit for everyone, and obviously when you start to combine it with, playing in a conference like the SEC and having a chance to, get a great education here, I just feel like we have a product that, we'll be able to sell and sell around the country. So it's been awesome, but I'm really enjoying the town feel, but obviously the city amenities is something that I think will bode well, for the future for all the young men that we're looking for.
Coach Banks, Brent Hobbs with VaultQuest.com. Two things. One, what's the first couple of weeks been like, and just trying to get your feet on the ground and get a defense sort of together? And two, what's been the buy-in, in your opinion, on your guys' part, on your players' part for that side of the ball?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, to be quite honest with you, but in a good way. It's obviously a lot of moving parts at play. Finishing up the defensive staff and making sure we're getting the right people in here, which we did. And then obviously getting to know your players. And we understand. We talk to our guys about love, trust, and urgency. And obviously the love is unconditional. We love these guys. The minute I signed the contract, I fell in love, but obviously the trust part, is typically earned over time, so just kind of getting to know these guys and they're getting to know me and figuring out, for me, how to motivate them. And, those guys understand very clearly what my expectations are. That takes time, but I feel like we got a good room. I think we got a good bunch of guys that are hungry to reach their full potential. And, but I understand it's a work in progress. But the trust piece is always big no matter where you go, and that's what we're kind of working through right now. But I'm excited, and I think the group is excited as well.
Last two questions, Wes Rucker, then Mike Wilson.
Yeah, I'm wondering, just to back up a little bit here, this is Wes Rucker with 24/7 Sports, but backing up a little bit, when you took this job, what made this the job to take at the time for you? I know that for all the upside this program has and the tradition it has, it's not been a great, decade, 12 years or whatever it's been. What made this the right move for you right now?
Well, I think just like with any organization, it always starts at the top with Coach Hype. Obviously the success he's had at UCF and, obviously as an offensive coordinator, I think speaks for itself, and having a chance to, talk to some of my guys that had a relationship with him, and everything that I heard about him being a great man, obviously a great coach, but just a great man was something that intrigued me. And then I think you said it already, when you start to talk about, Tennessee and the success they've had, a lot of programs are talking about what they want to do. And the reality of it is Tennessee has done it. Obviously, we know there's some work to be done to get back to where we want to go. But at the end of the day, having a chance to work with great people and having a chance to do it together was just an opportunity that I didn't feel like I could pass up on.
Last question, Mike.
Yeah, Tim, Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel. I have two parts to the question. One, do you expect Henry To'o and Roberts Crouch to play for your defense this year? And two, with your recruiting ties to Detroit, is that something you're going to try to work to get guys from, with the talent at King, Cass Tech, Belleville, places like that, to get some of those guys down to Knoxville as well?
Yeah, well, dealing with the first question, we don't have a timeline on those guys. They're not here, obviously, at this point. So, we're super excited about the guys that are here in this program that are working. But, we'll figure that out as we go. But right now, we're just concerned with the guys that are here. As it relates to, the Detroit area or Michigan in general, we're going to recruit nationally. We're obviously going to try to get the best possible student athletes we can, here at UT. But obviously having great ties, to Michigan and the city of Detroit, we look forward to recruiting any of those guys there that, fit what we're looking for in terms of, student athlete. So, yeah, we'll definitely open up those pipelines and get this thing going, as we will all over the country.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Go Vols.
Next coach up, defensive line coach Rodney Gardner. To ask a question to Coach Garner, please hit the raise your hand function and please state your name and affiliation. We'll start with David Pascal.
Hey, Rodney, David Pascal here at the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you again. Wanted to know, it's been 25 years since you walked into Knoxville the first time. What's changed more, you or Knoxville?
I think that we both changed. But it's good to be back on Rocky Top. It's exciting for me and my family. It's something that we've talked about. It's sort of like life's coming full circle. Being able to come back here, and obviously we were here in the late '90s, and just the opportunity to be able to get Tennessee back to the elite status. That we feel like it belongs to. And just trying to play whatever role or whatever, what it is, with being able to contribute to that.
Go to Jimmy Hines and Patrick Brown.
Rodney, Jimmy Hobbs with Sports Animal Radio in Knoxville. Talk a little bit about trying to teach veterans a new scheme. Do you think it's easier to teach guys that have been in the program a while a new scheme, or is it easier to teach incoming players a new scheme?
Well, obviously, as coaches, that's what we are. We're teachers. And I think, young men, they're very adaptable. Obviously, we're trying to take it at a pace and trying to help it correlate and relate to as much as possible, what they knew before. And a lot of it, schematically, maybe the same thing, it's just called something differently. And obviously when we're trying to teach it, I'm just trying to figure, okay, what did you guys call this last year when you did this particular movement or this particular stunt? So we can, so this is same as, a jab stunt, same as a cowboy. We may call it a ram or we may call it an egg, but it's the same as. And I think, when you put it in those terms, a lot of it, that it hits them like, oh, okay, I got it, but, they're very resilient. I think the guys have adapted to the change pretty well. Obviously just the different personalities. They're trying to feel their way through, and I just think they're looking to see, that you're going to be consistent in what you're doing. And that's the thing that, we try to bring to the table every day.
Also, do you think it's harder now to play the defensive line considering all the variety of offenses that you face from week to week?
Well, obviously, this league has changed. There's everybody now is evolving to the spread. So it's changed even, schematically, what type of body types that you're looking for, because everybody's in the hurry up tempo. It's hard to sub guys in and out. So now you're really starting, as you're targeting your recruiting, you're looking for guys that have that third down value, because you may not be able to get guys in and out, after second down. So you got to be able to transition and play the third down. So, obviously, just trying to make sure that you're athletic enough up front to be able to do the things that need to be done, and also have the stoutness to be able to hold the point and not get displaced. So, to me, it is a premium, being a defensive lineman in this league.
Hey, Rodney, Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports. Kind of following up on that, what was maybe some of your first impressions of the guys you're inheriting? Obviously, you have a lot of guys that play a lot of football, a lot of veterans. What did you see when you watched film of them from last season, if you did, and maybe what did you think when you saw them and some of the workouts you guys have done since you've been here?
Well, obviously we watch film to see guys play and see how they strike blocks, how stout they were, and different things. But you're trying not to go into it with a preconceived idea. It's like I told them the other day when we were doing one of the workouts, and just told me, we're going to have to move guys around, put them in different positions to see how they fit schematically, so we can try to put the best combination of guys out there on the field. I took them back to when I went back to the last place I was in 13. I probably had like 10 different starting lineups. Just trying to find the right matchups and getting guys playing with the right chemistry, so we could be successful, defensively. So right now we're just trying to find out where guys fit the best and that they can execute and play at a championship level.
David Oven and Ben McKee.
Hey, Rodney, David Oven with The Athletic. Kind of playing off that last question, how do you learn what guys can do? Is that solely a decision based on what you see in practice, or what's your research look like on it? How do you learn?
Well, obviously, it's obviously, they're creatures of habit. Obviously what we do in practice, what they put on tape. Like I've tried to tell them, there's three things that will never lie to you. That's the Bible, the mirror, and film. So, obviously what they're putting on film, that's who they are, what they are. But we've got to find a way to help them improve where they can execute at a high level. And the one thing that I think is very consistent, these guys are hungry. They want to win, and they want to play better, and they want to improve their game. So it's going to be exciting for both sides, for them and for me, to be able to work together and see what we can achieve.
Coach Ben McKee of Rocky Top Insider. I'm curious as to when you are trying to figure out where guys fit best, and when you're evaluating talent in high school, what are you looking for? What does a Rodney Gardner defensive lineman look like?
Well, obviously, you start with measurables. That's a given. Then, we're looking for, a skill set. Do they check the boxes, as far as, initial quickness, lateral movement, short area quickness, COD, what kind of ankle flexion, hip flexion, knee bend, hip explosion, being able to create vertical power. Schematically, obviously, we're an attack and react front versus sitting on the line and reading. And then, obviously, it's hard. You're looking at the character, the makeup of the young men, what type of character they have. And then one of the things that's the hardest to gauge is what kind of competitiveness and what kind of heart they have, which as you try to to go through the recruiting process and get to know them and get to know their families and their makeup, and hopefully that'll be more revealing.
What with Blake, then Matt Ray. Blake, you there?
Sorry about that, Bill, froze for a second. Rodney Blake Topmeyer with Knoxville News Sentinel. This is kind of a follow-up. You mentioned being an attack and react type front. I was wondering if you could elaborate kind of what you feel like the hallmarks will be of the defensive line in this scheme. How would you like to see your guys play?
Well, obviously, you want to play violent. It's a violent game. We want to strike. We want to create knockback. We want to perfect, block destruction. Be able to hold a point on the different combo blocks, and just be very disruptive up front, and also at the same time being mindful of that we've got to protect that second level guys too, and not just let guys climb. So when I say attack and react, we're not just going to be running upfield, but we've got to read our pressure points as we're working vertical, and we got to recognize the different blocking schemes that we're getting, and we got to be able to play those blocks.
Rodney Taylor, Sports Illustrated. Shortly after you were hired here at Tennessee, I asked Eric Brown what kind of coach Tennessee was getting in Rodney Gardner. He told me they got the best damn coach in college football. He will not only grow those guys as players, but as men as well. My question to you is, how important is it for you to not only be able to relate and develop these guys on the field, but play a role off the field in developing them into a man?
Well, obviously, I look at this, as my ministry, and this is what I want to pour into these young men, and the thing that we sell to these families. They're going to give me a young man, and I want to give them a man back. So, we have the holistic approach. That obviously they all want to play at the next level. You ask them man for man, that's what you hear, but. I want them to be good students. I want them to get a degree. I want them to be good men off the field. My role is I want them to be good husbands, good fathers, good citizens. So we're looking at that, and hopefully, we can develop them spiritually, socially, and then athletically. And I feel like if we can encompass those other areas, then they're going to be good football players. Because hopefully, we're targeting the guys that have the skill set and the talent to be able to play at a high level. So if we're doing our job as far as developing them in other areas, then they should be very coachable, and we should be able to achieve their athletic goals along the process.
Last question, Eric Kane, and then we'll get Coach Eckler.
Hey, Rodney, Eric Kane with the Sports Animal here in Knoxville. Welcome back to Knoxville. My question for you is, this defensive line group, it's had quite a bit of turnover in terms of coaching as instructors the last couple of seasons. How important is it for those guys to have stability in one coach, in one voice, to kind of get better and continue on with their journey?
Well, I think stability is important in anything, and that was one of the things that Coach Hype talked about. I look at when we were talking, when he was formulating his staff, he's looking for men that wanted to be here at Tennessee and not look at it as a springboard to the next job. And obviously, like I told him, I feel like, UT's a destination spot. It's definitely a spot that, I'm excited to be back at. I'm excited to help it get back to the elite status that it deserves. My family's excited about it. Obviously, my second oldest daughter was born here at Fort Sanders. So to us, it's just a combination of everything, of life coming full circle. And I'm hoping that we will be able to form and play at a level that we will be able to create consistency. And the only way we're going to do that, though, obviously we're in the bottom line business. We've got to perform, and we got to play at a high level. But that's going to be our goal every day. I'm committed to giving 110, 120% to help these young men in all areas in their lives to develop as players and as men, and help UT get back to where it belongs.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Go Vols.
All right. We'll go to now special teams coordinator and outside linebackers coach Mike Eckler. To ask a question to Coach Eckler, please hit the raise your hand function and we'll call on you. And please state your name and affiliation. We'll start with David Pascal, then we'll go to Jimmy Hines.
Mike, I'm curious. Josh was saying earlier, just SEC experience was really important. And I know you and Rodney and Willie all worked under Coach Rick at Georgia. I know Rodney and Willie were ahead of you, but why do you view SEC, why is SEC experience so important in this league?
Well, it's a whole different deal. I've coached in all Power 5 conferences, been in the SEC a total of 5 years, 3 at LSU and 2 at Georgia, excuse me. And to have that experience, it's just different. It's different than the Big 12. It's different than the ACC, and it's the deep end of the pool.
Jimmy Hobbs with Sports Animal in Knoxville. Could you kind of give us an idea of what you want your special teams units to look like?
One thing that we'll do is we'll play our tails off, and we're gonna be all about technique, and we're gonna play hard, and we're gonna play clean.
What do you feel like you have with the skilled position players you've inherited?
Just having watched every clip last year of our special teams, really feel like they really have a good foundation and a good culture from a special team standpoint. The guys played hard. I think we've got some really good skill players, and I'm excited to get out there in spring practice and work with them.
Ben McKee and Austin Price.
Coach Ben McKee, a Rocky Top Insider. From the outside linebacker perspective, just what have been your initial thoughts of the guys you have inherited there, and what will kind of be your main focus those first couple of weeks of the spring practice?
Well, really have seen them on the field only one time, just having gotten here last week and watching them on film last year. Excited. I think we've got a lot of talent there, got some speed. Just excited to get out there in spring practice and work with them and see these guys develop.
Coach, in watching your Twitter activity over the weekend, that you were calling your first game coaching Neal in 2005. What was it about that game? And then take me through kind of maybe what you see as a difference in maybe Neal in the stadium versus some of the other big venues you coached in, because you coached in quite a few.
Sure. Well, I just remember walking in there. First of all, you walk in that stadium, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's incredible. It's all symmetrical, and it's just it's probably one of the most breathtaking just structures you've been in. Then you toss in 103,000 people, and they start singing Rocky Top, and it's an electric environment. I remember I was up in a press box at the time, and and the thing's like shaking and swaying, and it was pretty awesome. So ever since that, I think we ended up coming out on top where I was in overtime, but it was an unbelievable battle, and just had a great experience.
Blake Topmeyer, then David Oven.
Yeah, Mike Blake Topmeyer, the Still News Sentinel. I was wondering, is it a true story or an urban legend that you and Jeremy Pruitt got into a fight when you guys were on staff together there in Georgia?
You know what? The only thing I'll say about my experience at Georgia is worked for Mark Richt, an unbelievable guy, and really had a great experience working for him. Incredible person. And, you know, I'm just excited about what we're doing here. And
I'll follow up in a different direction. You're someone who's worked on the defensive side of the ball at a lot of places, but now gotten into kind of this special teams thing. Why is that a direction you wanted to take your career, and what do you think it takes to make a good special teams coach?
Well, going back, when they added the 10th coach, that's really when I decided to go the special teams route. Because I'd always gone, you know, linebackers, defensive coordinator, and so forth. And I've always loved special teams, but at that point, a lot of head coaches hadn't put the emphasis on it. And I saw it as an opportunity. You know, that's kind of how I made my name as a player, and I love that aspect of it. You get to coach every single player on the team, and it's all you get to teach them I call it transferable skill. So a kickoff, for example, it's no different. We'll pull a clip of a receiver stemming a corner, stepping on his toes, running a post cut. Guys, that's all you're doing. It's the same thing. We'll pull a clip of a linebacker setting up a block and look him in the eyes and sticking him, and it's all about space. It's all about where's the ball, where's the block, how much space do I have, teaching them relationships. So to sum it up, you're teaching your entire team all the fundamentals of ball. So that's what I really enjoy, working with every player and getting out there. And the other thing that's fun about it is you got one shot at this. You know, it's not like offense, not like defense where you have 3 opportunities. You got one shot. So your chili better be hot. You better be ready to rock and roll. And I enjoy that because I wake up about 3 a.m. every day, and I don't need a cup of coffee. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, Mike, do you anticipate, I guess, I don't know if having access is the right word, but using starters on your special teams unit, either for tournament or, gunners, those kind of things?
In the past where I've been, we haven't used a lot of starters. And here's the reason. You have an opportunity to develop your whole entire roster. And you have an opportunity to leave some tread on the tires, so to speak, of your starters. But we're going to use exactly who we have to, or who we need to be the best in the conference. So I don't know what that looks like right now, and that's a fun part of spring ball. Our job as a special teams coordinator, my job is to identify every single player on our roster, identify their skill sets, and that's what we'll do, and we'll plug them in.
Trey Wallace and Eric King.
Trey Wallace, Rocky Top Insider. I spoke with one of your former players last week in Will Compton.
Oh, yeah.
And he started to get into the stories of your recruiting tactics and what you did in Nebraska when it comes to that last in-home visit of showing him a tattoo on your arm. I'm interested to hear what it's like for you to be on the road. What are you trying to preach kids? And if you can you finish that story on how your 24-mile run in Lincoln ended?
Oh, yeah. That was, well, first of all, just in recruiting, I just, it's about connecting with these kids. And as a coach, once you connect with them and once they understand and they get here, and the former players like a Will Compton, I mean, I told Will when he stepped foot on campus, and I've told every player this, that, guys, it's my job as a coach to earn your respect. And so let me be clear about that. If I can't make you the best linebacker in Will's case in the country, then I'm worthless to you. That's my job. And said, then it's my job to earn your trust. And that happens over time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen in the fourth quarter when, you know what, hits a fan and we're down against Auburn. And what am I going to do? Am I going to point a finger? Am I going to point a thumb? You know, are we in this together or are we really in it together? So that takes time. And then after you get those two components, the third thing, once you figure out I actually care about you, I love you, now we got something. So in the recruiting process, it's really conveying that to the recruits and getting in front of them and really just getting to know them on a personal level, getting to know their families and know who they are and what they're about. And to finish the story on the run, all right, so we were practicing. It was spring practice. We had a Friday practice. It was not one of our best practices. My wife and kids were out of town. They're actually in St. Louis. And I told our guys, we had an early morning scrimmage in Memorial Stadium on Saturday. I said, hey, fellas, we're going to have the greatest practice in the history of Nebraska football today. I said, when we do, so I'm going to go run a marathon. And lo and behold, I mean, Allante, David, and Will Compton, and a bunch of other dudes out there just wrecking shop. We had an unbelievable practice. So after practice, we go and we had a bunch of boosters there. So we had a big barbecue. And so we're under the stadium eating barbecue. And then one of my good friends, Joe Moglia, who was with us, he's the CEO of TD Ameritrade, went on to become the head coach at Coastal Carolina. He lived in Omaha. And so you take I-80 from Lincoln to Omaha, and I said, hey, Joe, will you drop me off? And so he dropped me off 27 and a half miles away from the stadium on I-80. It was 90 degrees out. I will admit, though, there was a wind at my back. And so I took off, started running. All I had was a little headset, and I had my GPS, you know, with that tracked how your splits and so forth. So I got to running, I think I was 23 and a half miles in, and I hear these sirens come up behind me. And it scared the heck out of me now, because I'm just running on the shoulder of the interstate. And I look behind me, and it's a police officer pulling me over. And he goes, son, what are you doing? And I said, officer, I'm running a marathon. He goes, you can't run out of here. I said, what do you mean? He goes, it's illegal. And so he made me get in a police car, and I'm sitting in there. I didn't have a shirt on. I was sweating like Moses Malone in the fourth quarter. And so I get in there and I look in the mirror, and it looked like I had rabies because it was 90 degrees out. I'd been running 22 and a half miles. I had cotton mouth like you couldn't believe. And so he said, give me your name. And I said, Mike Eckler. And he goes, Coach Eck? He goes, what are you doing, man? And I told him, and he goes, I said, officer, how far am I for the 56th Street exit? He said, you're 2 miles away. I said, that's where I'm turning. That's where I'm going to the stadium. I said, just let me finish. He said, I can't do that. I can get fired if you get hurt. So I said, well, I am kind of tired. How about if you just give me a ride back to the stadium then? So that's how it ended. So I never finished it.
Thank you. Last question, Brent.
Yeah, Coach Eckler, kind of following up a little bit on that. Where does your intensity come from? I mean, obviously you're known for your intensity. Where does that stem from? What's kind of brought that out of you as a young age, and why have you been able to consistently carry that through your career, regardless of where you're at or what you're doing?
I think it's just DNA. You know, I think it's how you're wired as a person. It's no different than everybody's got a different coaching style, right? Everybody's got a different personality, and I just happen to enjoy Red Bull, and that's kind of how I coach.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Appreciate y'all.
with Linebackers coach Brian Jean-Marie. To ask a question to Coach, please hit the raise your hand function. We'll go to Eric Kane, then Patrick Brown.
Eric Kane, the sports animal, and welcome to the Knoxville, Coach. Been a lot of turnover at that inside linebacker spot with guys leaving to the portal and going here and there and graduating and whatnot. What have you seen from those guys so far in your time in Knoxville, and how do you think they've responded during off-season conditioning and all that?
First off, thank you for having me here. They've been great. The guys have been attentive and very eager to learn, Coach Banks' new system. They've, come in with a bounce in their step, with some of the things that Coach Heupel has, installed so far for the program. So it's been great every day that we've got a chance to get together. Those guys, like I said, they've been sponges, kind of getting to the point where they're a lot more comfortable asking questions. And, obviously they wanted to get a chance to know me as an individual coach and learn, Coach Banks' system as far as defense. But everything has been positive so far. I have no complaints.
Hey, Brian, Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports. You spent, I think, a decade with Charlie Strong at a couple different places in Michigan last year. What made this the time to jump to Tennessee and come work with the staff? And what do you remember about your games against UCF when you were down there at USF as a defensive coordinator?
First off, obviously Coach Strong was a, big mentor for me. He gave me my first opportunity along with Coach Holtz to actually work in this conference. So I was a graduate assistant with those guys back in the early 2000s. But I felt like the time was right. Obviously, I have a history with Coach Heupel, respect, everything that he's done as far as not just the offensive, guy, but, as a coordinator, but also what he did as a head coach, down at Central Florida. I think he's got, the right mix of, explosive offense, but they also, did a great job as a full team to win, here in this conference. So it was enticing and it was, offer, too good to turn down. And just, from, like I said, from the experiences at UCF, like I said, a very, very explosive, an aggressive team. They're a team that, going to take their shots, obviously, as far as getting downfield, but a team that you had to defend from sideline to sideline, that was going to be equally as explosive, with the pass game as they were with the run game, and probably one of the more difficult teams to prepare for, that I've had, to prepare for throughout my whole career. So to be on, obviously a team with him, like I said, was too enticing, and I know they're going to put some points on the board and give us a chance to win a lot of games.
David Oven, then Gustavo.
Hey, Brian. David Oven with The Athletic. How would you describe the role and responsibilities of middle linebackers in this defense?
With any defense, I know there's different defenses and different fronts and different responsibilities with every defense you have, but the middle linebacker is always going to be the captain of the defense. That's kind of through history has proven. So that guy's going to have to be the captain. He's going to have to be the guy that communicates with the front, four guys, the defensive line, outside linebackers, and communicate with the secondary. So there is a leadership role that comes with that position, and he's going to be the captain of the defense, whether it's obviously not necessarily the captain of the team, but he's got to take the leadership role and be one of the guys that, obviously the rest of the guys on defense look to kind of right the ship, on the field without the coaches being there with him.
Coach Gustavo Tomaselli, WHK 90.3 The Rock. You worked with some big schools on the Big 10, Big 12, and the ACC, but the first time you worked in an SEC school, how how you feel about that, you take on a school in the SEC, which is a so tough conference?
It's a great challenge. Obviously the SEC is regarded as the best football conference in college football. So, you have an opportunity to come here, especially at a program, like the University of Tennessee. It's a great challenge and one that, you're always looking forward to, see, how you would do as a coach in this conference, and you're playing against, playing and coaching against, the best players and the best coaches in college football. So it's exciting. It's exciting. You get a chance to, obviously match wits, but obviously, go against some of the, better programs in the country. So, if you feel like you're, a good coach and you're tied to obviously a good program, it's something that, like I said, it's an opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity, I would say, that, you wouldn't turn down and you're excited to be a part of.
Go to Ben McKee, then Austin Price.
Coach Ben McKee of Rocky Top Insider. Have you had a chance to reach out to Henry To'oTo'o and Kavash Crouch? And also, just with those two kind of being in the transfer portal and maybe undecided, has it been difficult to get a grasp of your new room with those two guys undecided?
No, first part of the question, I've had conversations with them, but with them being in the portal, my focus has been the guys that are here. And, the room with the guys that are here has been fine. I mean, that's just part of football, and you guys all know that from covering football. No matter how well or, how thoughtfully planned out something is, between injuries and other circumstances, you have to go with the guys that are available, and that's kind of how we're looking at it. Obviously those two are great players, and we'll see what happens with them, obviously in the future. But for right now, I'm focusing on the guys that are with us, and like I said, they've been great. They've been great, and like I said, have been sponges, soaking up everything that we're doing, and been very, very happy with, the guys that are here, going through the weightlifting and the conditioning every day, as part of the volunteer program.
Coach Austin Price, Walkwest and Rivals. How important, like spring practice is when you're a new defensive staff. A lot of the experience on the staff may be on the defensive side, but the continuity lies on offense. So for you guys to get continuity working together in the meeting room, on the practice field, and then two, specifically at your position, you talk about everything, you like what you see, or to this point, or they're doing everything you're asking them to do. Do you think it feels like, because there has been change at your position and change with the staff, that the newness kind of, you're starting fresh together instead of old ideas versus new ideas?
I think so. The first part of your question, spring practice is one of the most important parts as far as building a team. As you saw last year, without a lot of teams getting spring practice because of the COVID-19 epidemic, you saw how slow some teams started, and probably guys were having to figure each other out, coaches and players, because they didn't have the spring practice. So I think it's very, very important. And, as far as the staff and the players, it is our first introduction to, football, 11 on 11, with us putting a actual game plan in and watching these guys run around. And it's the closest thing we're going to get to a game. So, yeah, it's going to be very, very important. And like I said, it's a process, because they're getting to know us and we're getting to know them. We know their strengths and weaknesses. We'll know them a lot better once we get out of spring practice. But I think with some of the veteran guys that we have on staff here, they've been in a lot of different systems and have had the opportunity to obviously coach under a bunch of different coaches. So I think it's been a seamless transition with those guys. Coach Banks has done a great job of bringing in his package and allowing guys to kind of fit how they see things into that package, and it's been good. And obviously we want to see how that works going into spring practice, but everything's been great so far.
Coach Jimmy Hines with the Sports Animal in Knoxville. With the offenses that you see, the variety of offenses and the up-tempo, how important is it for you to have 3 down linebackers?
Obviously, it's going to be important because, with the up-tempo offenses, they keep the guys that are on the field, during the first and second down. They keep them on the field on third down if they're going at a certain tempo where you can't sub to get your different packages in. So we have to have guys that are versatile enough, obviously, to be good enough to stop the run and, are going to be, obviously adequate enough to defend the pass. That's kind of the problems with going against up-tempo offenses, because they can get you in a certain package and keep you in it, if you're not able to stop them, on third down. So that's going to be, one of our main goals coming out of spring, is to see which linebackers we have that can stay on the field, no matter the situation.
Thank you, Coach. We'll move on now to Coach Martinez.
You guys have a good one.
Conclude today with secondary coach Willie Martinez. To ask a question to Coach Martinez, please hit the raise your hand function and please state your name and affiliation. We'll start with Eric Kane and then we'll go to David Pastor.
Eric Kane, the sports animal here in Knoxville. Coach, I believe you had the opportunity to coach Tim Banks at Central Michigan. How was that experience, and how unique is it to work with him again here in Tennessee?
Obviously, Tim was he was a senior when I went to Central Michigan. It was only the 1 year that I was there in 1994, so I was blessed in a sense where I got a chance to really coach a kind of a veteran group, and Tim was one of the captains, so to speak, one of the leaders on the defense, and on the team. But he was a fierce competitor, smart, tough. Obviously, had a tremendous amount of playmaking ability. And it's the same year too that we won the MAC championship, and it was a special time. I had just left Grand Valley State with obviously somebody you guys know very well, Brian Kelly, and then had my opportunity to get back in the Division One and to win a championship right off the bat. And first time there, being there, tradition there at the school, and to be a part of a team that, again, had really good senior leadership led by Tim Banks. And Tim was a great player, like I said, and to be around him now, obviously we've been friends for a long time. And the great thing about the business, the job that we have is exactly what we say in recruiting, making an impact in their lives and helping them develop to be the men they want to be and reach their goals and dreams and aspirations. And to sit there and now be beside him and him leading the defense is obviously it's special for me, because that's one of the players I had the obviously the blessing of being able to coach. So it's kind of a cool deal.
Willie, hey, David Pascal here in Chattanooga. Hope you've been doing well. Wanted to ask, you walked into the SEC 20 years ago, and I'm just curious, what has evolved and changed the most for you coaching defensive backs? What's different about it now compared to when you were 20 years ago?
It's going to be a very popular answer. the offenses. Where the speed of the game has changed. The tempo of the game has changed. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Obviously, in this league, there's a tremendous amount of great athletic players at each position, probably the best in the country, and so the talent is obviously it's great, but it's the speed, it's the tempo of the offenses. Being able to try and defend the entire field, sideline to sideline. You got to play with the same personnel on the field. Used to be able to change that personnel grouping because you had time. The strategies have changed. Obviously, the rules have changed. But I would say the offenses.
David Oven and Brent Hobbs.
Lou, what do you make of the defensive backs that you're inheriting?
Well, I'm actually I've been excited. I mean, there's some guys in the room that obviously I was a part of recruiting. That's kind of neat to see and watch them through the years here and develop to be the people they've become and the players they are. But I think it's a locked-in group. I think it's a group that really, really wants to get better each and every day. I mean, it's really been an awesome experience for me and Coach Banks, obviously, in the back end. So got some leadership guys that know how to lead, guys that have a respect of their teammates. And you kind of need that in the back end, especially at the last line of defense.
And also, this offense, what does it do to secondaries that allows it to have so much success throwing the ball down the field?
I'm going to take a positive to that answer, to that question. Okay, and a lot of guys will, and that's really myself evolving as a coach, especially in the secondary. The tempo of the offenses now. And the great thing about it is we get a chance to practice it. I've been a part of it now for a couple of years when I was at Oklahoma, and then obviously defending it, but also on a daily basis. Though this will be the 6th year in an offense that goes basically at warp speed. So you kind of have to be ready to go. You just can't. You're not just going to line up and practice and kind of ease your way through. Not that anybody does that, but I mean it starts right from the beginning. The tempo is fast. It's fast in thinking, obviously along with the running part of it, but to process stuff very quickly. So to practice that every day, each period, it's only going to be a positive for the defense. It's almost like you'll get to the game, and I know being a part of it is that sometimes you get these offenses that are no huddle, and they don't quite go as fast as our offense is going to be going. And so they kind of slows the game down a little bit for them. So still being some games where, come on, man, hurry up and snap the ball, which gives them the time that they've been able to practice that process each and every day. Then when it comes to game times, it's a little bit slower for them. They can process a little bit quicker. And so that's the positive of being involved in defending this each and every day, and the mindset and kind of knowing the ins and outs and how you go about doing that. So, you focus on the things that you have to do to be successful as a defensive back. What is that? Well, once that play's over with, get yourself lined up, get yourself in a play routine, like we like to say. Identify the down and distance, identify the personnel call, identify the call that's being given to you, and then get your eyes in the right spot to define what they lined up in and where are the go-to guys, and that you got to do that all in about 6 to 7 seconds. And to be able to practice that every day, it'll be where they're going to be ready for it. It's not going to be something that's going to really bother them. So you got to pay attention to details. That's going to be important. You have to embrace the process. Don't look at it like a grind every day. Anything that you do, how you do anything is how you do everything. That's kind of like what we say. And if you are prepared and you're detailed in academics, in whoever you're meeting with, whether it's the strength coach, being early, being on time, have a plan already processed through prior to coming into that room or into that meeting, and it's only going to help you have success on the field.
Coach Martinez, Brent Hobbs with VaultWest.com. Welcome back to Knoxville. Two things. One, you're the one who's been here most recently. How much does that help in terms of talking to the defensive staff about kind of the Tennessee experience and recruiting to Tennessee and expectations at Tennessee and all of that. And then two, kind of follow up to what you just talked about. How do you avoid not being too simplistic in the back end when you're having to go warp speed, that you can still be complex enough to affect an offense, but you're playing at such a fast pace? How do you balance that?
To the first question, you know, I told the guys, you know, and obviously they'll ask me the questions, you know, what about Tennessee? And this is a tremendous place. This is a special place. I mean, the first day that I came here back in 2013 is the same excitement that I had when I came back. I mean, it's a place that has so much tradition, so much success, passionate fan base that wants nothing but success. They follow it. They're passionate. It's important to them. I mean, it's like, and when I was recruiting here the last time I was here, and even when I'm with another school, you know, you walk around and you wear that power tee. You walk in. It doesn't matter what state in this country, and let alone across. You know, sometimes you got to go out of the states. You know exactly what school it is. You know that it's an unbelievable tradition, and so it's never been a recruit that I've been a part of when we brought them here from wherever they came from, that they didn't really enjoy themselves in Rocky Top. You know, so that's what I remember, and that's kind of like how I feel now. And there's so many great players that have played here, and it's not just football, man. We're talking about all sports, and so there's so much to pull from to sit there and say, well, look, this one here went here, and she went here, and look at the success they had, and there's tremendous tradition here. To your second question, I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Brent? What was it?
Yeah, just
being about simple.
Yeah, simple, but you have to go fast versus
Yeah.
complex.
Well, it's funny you say that, but from a fundamental standpoint, from a thought process, like I had said a little bit earlier, about just embrace the process. Well, it starts with the beginning, you know what I mean, of a play. You know what I mean? Don't look at anything else other than you can handle looking over to the sideline and get a down distance situation. Then you can actually look at our personnel calls or what they have in the game. That's something that doesn't need anything but just looking. Now, once you do that, being able to process what they have shown formation-wise, okay, you've practiced it. You're going against an offense that's going really fast. It's a positive. Sometimes it looks like it's unreal, but guys, listen to me. Trust us that in the process, if you embrace it, okay, it may look a little bit, not realistic how fast they're going in practice, because sometimes it goes faster than normal. But if you're able to process it and focus on your job, okay, you do simple better from your standpoint. What's your job? What is your job? Define it, and then what's the call that we give you? You know what I mean? Within that, you got to have some kind of an idea as we put in the defensive calls. You got to know the weaknesses and strengths of that defense comparable to what they might do, okay? So they're going to do exactly what you show them what we're going to do. But then we'll have the ability to change that, okay? You have to be able to do that, okay? But it won't be something that we haven't practiced, you know what I mean? That's what the offenses do. They look over the sideline and see, look for a different check, how the defense looks. You got to be able to do that same thing on defense. And so it becomes a chess match. So I don't think is that we're going to be simple. That's not going to be the case. We're going to have a strategy, a scheme that will counter anything that the offense is doing, okay? What we got to do is just play relentless, be locked in and focused, and play relentless, because that's still going to be, it's not going to be so much the scheme as it's going to be how we play, okay? It's going to be how the tempo that we play, almost kind of like reverse the mindset. We're going to set the tempo. I know that they have the snap count and all that stuff, but by the way and the style that we can play, we're relentless, okay? There's no perfect call. It's really the ability to how you play as a unit. All 11 guys being on the same page, okay? Understanding what is our weakest link in that 11 guys. There's going to be weaknesses, and how to play off of that and counter that, knowing that the offense knows that. And then that comes where coaching comes in, where you kind of give enough change-ups that plays to your strengths. And again, it's just a chess match. And most of the time that you face these fast tempo offenses, or how you have to defend all these offenses across America, a lot of it's because guys aren't locked in, okay, play after play after play. You know what I mean? They get out of their mindset of really what's important, and that's to play as a unit, play as one, okay? If you're going to make a mistake, you're going to do it 100%. You're going to go fast, relentless, physical, okay? And if something does happen wrong, and it's going to happen, get back up, get back to your spot, wherever that is, whether you're a right, left corner, a right, left defensive end, and then get the call and get ready and strap it up, and let's snap it up and we'll play the next play. It's the next play. Once that one's done, get on to the next play. It's a mindset.
We'll close with Patrick Brown.
Hey, Willie, Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports. Kind of a two-part question. First of all, what was the process like to you coming back here when Coach Heupel took the Tennessee job? Did you think there was a chance you might come back to Knoxville? And secondly, you mentioned seeing some guys here that you recruited. Who were some of those guys? Maybe what was that interaction like when you saw them for the first time in a couple of years?
Obviously, when Coach Hype took the job, we really didn't know really what was going to happen. Obviously, it was a process to it, and obviously, I was at a great place, where we won a lot of games and got a tradition of their own going right now. Obviously, I'm from Florida. So I had the best of two worlds there. I had an opportunity to come back to a special place like Tennessee and work for Coach Heupel, who I think is a great leader. And then I got a chance to maybe possibly stay. Didn't really know, but I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to my round 2, so to speak, here at Rocky Top. So I'm fired up about that. And then coming back to a couple guys that I was a part of recruiting. Theo Jackson is somebody obviously that is somebody that I wanted when I was here. We wanted basically, and thought he was the right mindset. We thought he was the right athlete, and that's kind of like holds true to form right now. And just watching the video that I've watched on him and the person that he's become. And Allante Taylor's another one that actually committed to us at a young age that I had recruited. As a young man, we're talking about 9th, 10th grade year, and to see how he's become and the leader that he's become is really exciting. That's why, for me, that's why I got into coaching. It was first, I've had a lot of great mentors, a lot of coaches that throughout my life, especially at a young age, but they kind of have the same common theme. You know what I mean? To get into coaching, it's really to have an impact in people's lives, to be able to share what you know and what you've gone through, and then pay it forward, so to speak, and to see it, to see Allante, and to see Theo. That's what's so great about what I do, to be a part of that, in the coaching profession, is to see their development and to see the families that they come from and how proud they must be of them. And that's not to take away from anybody else that I haven't recruited there. I know there's some there like Cheyenne. Cheyenne has not had the career, obviously, for the injuries, but he's still a super, super young man. He's, obviously we want nothing but the best for him moving forward. And, moving forward. And, and there's like other couple of guys there, like, I told Danico, Slaughter, I tried to get him at the old school that I just came from. And you kind of dodged me, and all of a sudden, the last second, Rocky Top gets him. You know what I mean? I says, it's funny how things kind of come around. It's just like, when I wanted Brian Randolph at another school that I was at, and all of a sudden I come back and I get a chance to coach him. Somehow, it just seems like, you know what I mean? If you try and do the best you can and do it the right way, and you recruit the right people, it's the right fit. It's somehow you come back, get a chance to coach those type of student athletes that I once wanted to recruit, and wanted for myself. So it's kind of cool to see them develop and to become the people they are right now.
Thank you, Coach. That concludes today's press conference.
Thank you, guys.